Ninja Gaiden 4's Platinum Trophy was seriously brutal, but not in the way you might think. More on that later. However, before that, welcome all, Zetsu here, and believe it or not, I found Ninja Gaiden 4 somewhat easier with the previous Ninja Gaiden titles. But why is that? I was even 132nd in the world according to Pearson Profiles 2. However, as a fan of having platinumed the Ninja Gaiden 2 Black remake, the Sigma collection, and others, this was the fastest yet. But enough of me yapping, come join me on this journey of mostly pain, broken controllers, and the resurrection of the Dark Dragon once again. This video will contain spoilers, so viewers' discretion is advised. Developed by Platinum Games in cooperation with Team Ninja, start on a train by the character Yakumo,
target imminent,
whereby I was introduced to the game tutorial Mission 00. In this rendition of Ninja Gaiden, obliteration techniques make a comeback, perfect for finishing off de-limbed enemies that often become more dangerous.
it's under control.
Bloodbind ninjutsu makes an introduction with Blood Raven form, useful for guard breaks and heavy damage. At this point, we're introduced into the apocalyptic Tokyo city in a badass introduction to the game. We're tasked with infiltrating the facility, and Yakumo proves to be a badass, like Ryu Hayabusa. Tad bit too emo though. Straight away, I found the camera to be a real bother as I changed the settings. But pushing on to the task at hand, combat is much quicker than the last titles, and truth be told, it does play pretty well. We meet Sayori, the Shrine Maiden, who we are fated to kill to fulfill the prophecy of vanquishing the Dark Dragon. However, coerced by her words, he proposes another way. Releasing the seals, we have a chance to purify the Dark Dragon for good, and Yakumo goes along with it. However, Kagachi makes a call.
Thanks. I owe you one. Hayabusa.
On to the next mission. I introduce more mechanics towards the vendor kiosk, and here we can obtain missions and buy items. We destroy the energy core, and here I try out the practice feature after learning a few new skills from Tyron. Umi beckons us over towards the vendor kiosk, and here, however, using Raven gear, and one of them is the Caddis wire.
Find a solid point to hook onto.
Further along, I change my appearance and we attack 5 or more enemies at once for Master of Blade using Take Minakata. Within the same fight scene, we perform a bloodbath kill and progress to our first formidable enemy, the DDO Commander. We destroy the energy core and progress on to the next mission. We start off exactly where we left off and the bridge collapses. Here is when we are introduced to the rail grinding sequences, whereby we have to dodge incoming hazards. After we've gained a new insight of how to use the Caddis wire, it helps us tackle airborne enemies, the worst kind in any game. I obtain my first health upgrade, get real wound up by the camera once again. I give up on trying to change things and continue on. Gordies are these strange creatures that are collected in Ninja Gaiden 4, and here is where I obtain my first. Not so cute, I fight a Goliath DDO enemy type, and just after perform a bloodbath slaughter. Skipping ahead into mission 3, Pleasure Quarter, I obtained 30 items from completing mission quests from Umi. At the end of the mission, I defeat the foxy lady Kitsune the courtesan. Not too challenging, all things considered, and I release the seal. The start of mission 4, Pilgrim's Path, we obtain a new weapon from releasing the seal, and I found this weapon particularly good at de-limbing smaller enemies. However, along the way, and as a Ninja Gaiden potion hoarder from previous games, I quickly obtained 100,000 ninja coins, as items already held instantly get converted into ninja coin, or karma in past games. We keep on until Umi introduces another Raven gear item. Kai wins, we use the Dragonfly glide to get across the broken bridge.
The Dragonfly glider. Lightweight, compact,
At the end of the mission, after the bridge collapses, I obtain Shadow Incarnate for completing a chapter without dying. In Raging Valley, the next mission, I randomly get stuck or reload from the last checkpoint and continue towards Kurobo, the boss of this region. I also tackle a Purgatory Gate, fight a teapot looking enemy, and fight this freaky boss called Sanzian. This guy's not so bad, but on way of the Master Ninja, he does become problematic. More on that later. We defeat him and progress on until mission end. And skipping ahead, gliding into mission 7, we face Kurobo, who I think can be one of the more awkward bosses due to how quick he can be. However, with diligent effort and the right Blood Raven attack, he topples like the rest of them. Yakumo obtains a similar looking weapon, in which is called Magatsuhi, or Luna for the Ninja Gaiden OGs. Kagachi and my man Ryu intercepts Raven, a fight occurs. And here is when I obtain the trophy for defeating Kurobo. Raven flees and Seori and the mission ends. Another familiar character makes an entrance with a rather decent design. A giant demon shark swallows Seori and ghost fishes make their ungraceful return. These fishy guys on the past Ninja Gaiden games were a real pain in the arse, especially on the Master Ninja difficulties, appearing from containers, though not a feature in Ninja Gaiden 4, mind you. Drowned District is like the sewer missions of Ninja Gaiden 4. I should also mention that you get accessories too, and equipping some of them help in certain situations, such as damage recovery speed and defense. After the wormhole enemy spawner, we get another Raven gear from Umi, and this time around the Pond Strider is Yakumo's method of crossing large bodies of water, similar to Ryu's dash in previous games.
The Pond Strider. This Raven gear will allow you to surf across bodies of water.
Later on, I defeat 3 enemies in a row using a charge ultimate technique in another Purgatory Gate. And on the next mission, mission 9, I complete 20 missions for Ninja Business. Fairly straightforward. While at the end of the mission, after surfing to countless locations, I fight off against Beitol, whatever he's called, an easy boss all things considered, but one that likes to flay about perhaps too much. The final mission, the Drowned District. Halfway through the game, we meet Ayane, a kunoichi of the Mugen Tenshin clan. As mentioned before, quite the eye-catcher. Pressing on, I achieve a 2000 point combo, something not too challenging. What was more challenging was to defeat Certus, though before that we must surf through a series of areas, dodge, and skydive into rifts in order to fight the interdimensional shark that has a strange fascination of spawning mobs on the harder difficulties. This mission was quite the challenge for the Surf Ninja trophy, more on that shortly. However, while quick, Certus isn't that hard of a boss and I break the 3rd seal. We obtain our 4th weapon of the game, the Ninja Tool, which I found crucial for tackling aerial enemies, if not fighting the camera lock-on didn't already have its challenges. Skipping ahead, we defeat Chario at the end of mission 11, an armored core type enemy with Juggernaut-esque vibes. A quick boy, but not too challenging. Starting our next mission, we infiltrate the DDO base in pursuit of the last seal. We have beefier enemies but pack bigger punches. Another DDO commander for the finale of mission 12. Into the 13th mission, we start off with a cutscene and face off against Kagachi, a Metal Gear Rising mofo that has a phantom limb. Kagachi is one of the more challenging bosses of Ninja Gaiden 4, but at the same time not overly complicated. He telegraphs his moves fairly well, and his phase 2 is pretty dope. After that, I continue on and unlock the last seal, in which we are double crossed and Seori becomes wounded. Achilles makes his appearance, though I don't remember him from any other Ninja Gaiden game personally. I mean, where's my boy Marbus at? We beat Achilles and another cutscene ensues. A and then a certain ninja makes his appearance. Here is where we play as Ryu Hayabusa and then defeat Achilles. Playing as Ryu is a breath of fresh air. I must admit, half of the move selection comes naturally. It still takes a bit of getting used to. It's equipped with a trusty dragon sword and Nimpo from previous games. This time around, we collect skills from chests and have a blast from the past with Muramasa's sharp, just like old times, eh? Beans start to make their return during Ryu's missions and reseal all the bosses in which Raven released throughout the game so far, in basically what is backtracking like most DMC games or Ninja Gaiden Sigma style of storytelling. And we fight a new boss called Tartayos, I think, which is kind of like some Liza P shit of a corrupted parade master, though at the end of this fight a cutscene is triggered and the priestess's wish is fulfilled. We return to playing again as Raven. It's here in mission 19, which is the last mission. Dai become the master of Takemi Nakata by leveling it up to its max level. Seconds later, I do the same with Yatolsen. This was all required for me to build my skills of a big face-off against the protector of the seals, Ryu Hayabusa.
Raven.
I must say, while facing off against Ryu, he's one tough cookie, perhaps the hardest boss in this game. Whenever you deflect, he deflects, and God forbid you ever go airborne, makes you real good. However, fighting Ryu as Ryu is much easier as Nimpo is at our disposal. Kind of broken in Ninja Gaiden 4 in my opinion, but once defeated, Ryu gives us the amulet which unlocks the Dark Dragon Sword, a relic from Sigma, and for me personally I prefer it as a weapon. This is Yakumo's 5th weapon. We push on to the last fight in which we fight a dragon and ultimately face off against the Dark Dragon reborn in his phantom form. Once he's defeated, we are brought back to the rooftops and we play out the credits, which was a decent end to Platinum's reimagining of Ninja Gaiden. At this point, this is where we unlock Ryu as a playable character in Chapter Challenge, as well as Trials and Purgatory Gate fight accessible from the main menu. I get a little confused on how to start New Game Plus, or whether I need to start Story Mode again for it to count, but with my goals in sight and being pig-headed, I vault right back into the game, into Master Ninja difficulty after completing it on normal. Immediately, the step up is quite apparent, and 3 hits is all you need to be killed. But now, it was to learn the mechanics properly in practice. Along the way, I did notice that by the game's design, certain enemy encounters can be completely avoided, and thus, that is what I did, as one does in order to become a Master Ninja. For all the struggles, I learned all Magatsuhi weapon skills. And by even more struggling, I obtained Master of the Toolbox during Mission 4 on Master Ninja. Though at this point, this is where I go back to the drawing boards. PowerPix came to the rescue in the nick of time, which provided the necessary guidance for the remaining trophies. Mad kudos to you dudes, you saved me from my horrendous Raven run. I now focus the Trials, and having done the boss's run on Hero, after I did all of that I unlocked the Dark Dragon Sword for Raven. I then did the Combat Trials, where I learned most about the game's combat and what to do in certain situations. While I completed missions along the way, I obliterated every enemy type in Mission 21, the Strange Oni. I then doubled back to Mission 12 to complete the chapter without being hit by a laser. And did much the same for Mission 2 in not falling once. Mission 6 was somewhat harder, as there's a particular point whereby not getting hit by throwing boulders was challenging. At this point on my mission quest, I found all the Gordis. And in Fuhaku Sanctum, I completed the Possessed Swordsman mission, though me killing him as Ryu will become a minor problem shortly. I inflicted massive damage with Yatosen, killed 5 more enemies with Magasuhi, and learned all the toolbox's weapon skills. Here is what the real bullshit trophy that had me restarting chapters for what felt like hours. While simple, you can't hit any obstacles whatsoever or come across any type of failure such as falling off the ledge during combat, etc. Though I did in the end manage. Found the last Purgatory Gate in mission 13 and completed it for Annihilator. At this point I learned all combat skills and the last health upgrade while completing some of the last few missions on Raven after handing in missions for rewards. And rightfully so, I learnt all the Dark Dragon weapon skills too. As I hadn't done all the missions yet, I hadn't unlocked the last and 14th trial from defeating Onyuaka. However, once I had done that, I completed all trials by fighting the last boss. By now I had completed all the missions, which was probably the worst trophy for me as some didn't complete because I played as Ryu instead of Raven for certain quests. Maybe you guys won't make the same mistake I did. So, with all the miscellaneous trophies done, here is when I really took all of what I'd learned up until this point to continue my Master Ninja run. Unsure if I could mix and match between story and chapter challenge, I succumbed to starting fresh via chapter challenge. And of course, as my man Ryu has already seen what to expect, this time around I actually breezed through it, too easily actually. I noticed you can guillotine throw problematic enemies off of ledges during unskippable boss encounters, and virtually most bosses now spawn mobs during their fights. However, I had completed the trials, which I'd confidently say were way harder than Master Ninja in this Ninja Gaiden game. So to give you a bit of context, I probably completed Master Ninja in about 5.5 hours, but not too shabby, and overall about 30 hours. Here is where I become a Master Ninja and thus a true ninja. So, there we have it peeps, Ninja Gaiden 4 done and dusted. I must admit I started off hating it until it evidently grew on me as I learned more of the game mechanics as an old school fan. I will stand by that I do hate the camera wholeheartedly because to me the camera, well, most dislike it in the previous games. To me I felt as though it's a part of the combat. I do expect more DLC in the near future as Ayane makes an appearance, but perhaps Momiji and even Rachel will make a return too. However, ultimately, I must pay my respects to the legend Tomonobu Itadaki, as Ninja Gaiden is one of my all-time favourite gacha games and thus never shall be forgotten. Rest in peace, dude. I mean, like, I've got enough platinums for this series as it is, but come on, remake Ninja Gaiden Black already. Or if you're wanting, check out my Ninja Gaiden 2 Black video coming up next.